Yes, you read that title correctly. This is a very serious, adult, and not immature topic at all. I am talking about my casting choices for the Muppets Iliad, which will be a film when I become a multi-billionaire and have access to the Muppets IP and I can pitch my sales to Disney Company. This film has been in my head for well over a decade. We're coming probably close to 2 decades. I don't want to admit my age sometimes now, but this has been the subject of countless conversations with friends over the years, and I debated this so much with people outside of classics, within classics, and thus have come to this conclusion that I think I know who should play who. I think I know which Muppets should play which characters, so this is my definitive list. I keep changing certain characters. I need to make some form of definitive list that I can then direct people to when I have this conversation with them, because I inevitably will have this conversation with them. And I know everyone is currently talking about the Odyssey right now, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I have a bit of Odyssey fatigue, and that has never happened to me before as someone who is in this space and reads it every year. And the reason I haven't chosen the Odyssey and rather the Iliad is because A, I think the Muppets would make a better Iliad than they would an Odyssey, primarily because there are more main characters in the Iliad, which would allow for a greater puppetry repertoire, which is what I want to see in a Muppets film. And secondly, I think watching the Muppets fighting to the death would be hilarious. Honestly, we never get to see them. We need to see a new side of the Muppets. And as a child, one of my favourite episodes of Muppet Babies was Babes in Troyland. So it only seems right to have built on from there, even though they don't specifically go into the Iliad, but they base it on the name, okay? I don't know why Disney keeps rolling out bad live-action remake after bad live-action remake, because they are sitting on the gold mine that is the Muppets IP. If you don't have the will to create original stories, okay, fine, but why waste all that money on tasteless, boring live-action remakes when you could instead produce Muppet versions of all of the classic films? Muppetify the Disney films, you will make so much more money than you do. And I'm saying this publicly now because Disney can pay me later, because I have it on public record. I also have it written down when I came up with all these ideas, so come at me, Disney. But I swear, they would make 3 times the amount of money that live-action remakes make with puppet versions of them. Picture this is my pitch. So, copyrighted. I think Muppet Beauty and the Beast would be brilliant, but the only human in the whole film is Beast, played by ideally Jason Momoa, and then at the end of it he becomes a handsome prince when he's transformed into Muppet Momoa. Copyrighted, mine. Tens of millions of dollars. Huge, hundreds of millions of dollars idea. It'd be way better than the current live-action remake. And of course I will take a huge percentage of that, because I am the originator of that idea. Thank you very much. It's public record. I will come for you, Disney. So this is my very nerdy, in-depth video about all the Muppets that I want to see in the Iliad and why I've chosen who, where, and it's just because I need to get it out my system, because I've been sitting on this for a while. But you know what I should have done? I was debating if I should make my own, blog dedicated to my Muppet casting choices. And if I were to do that, today's sponsor, Pork Bone, would be fantastic for it, because it would be just what I need. Because let's face it, we all miss the good old days of showcasing what we love with passion and without worrying about algorithms or chasing trending topics, just for the joy of expressing ourselves. And if you are the same way as me, you need a .blog domain from Pork Bone. So you can get a .blog domain for up to 90% off for your first year, which is perfect for any writers, creators, journals or newsletters, or anyone who wants to create their own little corner of the internet that isn't being infiltrated by horrible things. And what I like about Pork Bone is that they also keep renewal prices transparent, rather than luring you in with a cheap deal and then charging you loads later. And if you need hosting for your website too, they offer fast, reliable cloud WordPress hosting that is powered by the people behind WordPress.com, plus an AI website builder for you to help you launch your blog in minutes. And you also get useful extras included for free, like WHOIS privacy or SSL certificates and DNS management, things that some registrars charge extra for. And what's also fantastic is there are no upsells or hidden fees. At checkout, the process is quick and clean. Pork Bone doesn't push on offers or add things in unless you ask to see them. And if you need any help, their support team is available 24/7 with real humans answering your questions. So if you've been meaning to start something online that's meaningful to you, then this is a very good excuse to start. Use the link down below. It is porkbun.com porkbum.com/Lady of the Library 26. I will link it down below and it's on the screen now, and you can get your .blog domain from Porkbum while the offer lasts. Thank you, Porkbum, for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the Muppets. So let's start with the main guy, Achilles. So Achilles is obviously the greatest Greek warrior of all history. But in the Iliad, this is a man who is so proud. He's also intensely emotional. He spends like 90% of the Iliad crying in a corner, having a strop with his mummy, sort of patting his head and speaking for him or on his behalf, and it's terrible. It's really mummy boy behaviour. But then, when his bestie and lover in certain retellings of the myth, Patroclus, dies, he unleashes this violent rage that has been consuming him inwards, and then he spreads it outwards and just slaughters so many Trojans in one go. It's very graphic and quite intense. And there is only one Muppet for this role, in my opinion, and that Muppet is Animal. No Muppet can have a strop like him, and no one can also be so vicious. He is the key to that role. It is going to be Animal no matter what. Also, someone of very few words, which Achilles is. Now, let's move on to said partner, Patroclus. Now, Patroclus is lovely. He is a compassionate, gentle, loyal friend, who also, let's give him credit where credit's due, has intense bravery to don Achilles' armour on behalf of his fellow Greeks who are being slaughtered by the Trojans and whose ships are now at risk of being burned down. Now, Achilles gives Patroclus permission to wear his armour in the hopes that he will just stand there and scare all the Trojans away, but the brave Trojan Hector rises to the challenge and slaughters poor Patroclus, thinking it is the great Achilles. Now, this is a very emotional moment. But for comedic effect, because after all this is the Muppets, I think the best Patroclus would be Rizzo the Rat, because I would like to see his teeny tiny body wearing very oversized armour, looking nothing like Animal, not looking terrifying at all, but scaring the living daylights out of all the other Muppets. And also, he has a little heart of gold. Everyone will be sad when Rizzo the Rat is taken out by Hector. So yes, that's my Patroclus. Now, I've taken this very seriously, and usually in a lot of Muppet films, there is a human. And I think that the human role in this film should go to Thetis, who is Achilles' mother. And I think that should be played by whatever actress they deem available. I haven't got a specific one in mind because they'll pick a random celebrity. I know they will. They'll run over my head and pick a random lady celebrity. But because I couldn't think of a Muppet who would play Thetis, I think that should be the human in the Muppet film of the Iliad. So the next one would be Agamemnon. This is the king of Mycenae and the commander of the Greek army. This is who Achilles has a fight with. Now, this man is arrogant. We hate him so much. He is prideful and insecure, but he is a great leader. We can't really doubt him there. But for this character, it has to be Sam Eagle, because Sam Eagle having a massive fight with Animal is biblical in nature and should be presented on screen. Now, obviously, before I go on to the next character, I have to address the elephant in the room, or rather, the pig in the room, Helen of Troy. That sounds derogatory, but Helen of Troy will be played by Miss Piggy. That's so easy, nothing else needs to be said about it. It makes perfect sense, but the reason I mention Miss Piggy now is because it made the next character really hard, and this was a heated debate between a lot of us of who should play her husband, Menelaus, or Menelaus as some people say. I'm sure you're all thinking, well, if Menelaus is Helen of Troy's husband, then obviously it has to be Kermit the Frog if you're putting Miss Piggy as Helen of Troy. No, I refuse. I know a lot of people want me to, but I refuse. I have greater plans for Kermit. He is not my Menelaus, and I will not cast him for a role just to play into the Hollywood story of those two being together. They deserve to be seen as individual Muppets in their own right, okay? They're not always a couple. So, my Menelaus is Ralph the dog. Now, Odysseus is really easy one for me. Obviously, he has a much smaller role in the Iliad than the Odyssey, but he's still there. He's still very clever, he's diplomatic, he's pragmatic, and considering he's also a bit of a storyteller, and that'll become a greater role in my second film, which is obviously the Muppets Odyssey, following on, it'll be Gonzo. I think Gonzo is the perfect Odysseus. I think he'll be great in my second film, The Muppets Odyssey, but for now, it will always be Gonzo. I think he just plays the narrator role really well. The storyteller role just fits him, and it works. It works. Then we have Ajax the Great. Now, this is the warrior who is second to Achilles in battle in terms of his fierceness and like strength and brutality. Now, he is called Ajax the Great because of his colossal frame. This man is not a small man by any means. We know from mythology he's a little bit mentally unstable. He is the one that is responsible for grabbing the body of Achilles off the battlefield. I believe with the help of Athena, they take him off the battlefield, but then he and Odysseus fight. This is not in the Iliad, later, but they fight over the armour, and Ajax loses against Odysseus and he stabs himself because he just goes mad that he doesn't have the armour. Bit of a funny character. I mean, anyone would go mad after a 10-year war. I don't blame him at all. So, he's obviously this colossal character, which makes most people think that the right person for this role, or rather, the right Muppet for this role, would be the biggest Muppet we have, which would be like Sweetums, or even, if they want to blend in Sesame Street, Big Bird. But, hear me out. I don't pick either. I know people want to, I'm not picking either. Because again, this is the Muppets, and I think it'd be much funnier to have Ajax the Great played by Pepe the King Prawn. Next, we have Nestor. So Nestor is the elder statesman. He is known for his very, very, very long but wise speeches. He likes to talk. He's a talkative chap. He's also incredibly diplomatic. He's very, nostalgic. He's sensible. He's a sensible man. I think he would be played best by Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. It just fits. He likes to talk, doesn't he? Now we're getting into the section, okay? We have got to have Diomedes in this, because I don't think Diomedes gets the recognition he deserves or the attention he deserves. This man is the whole package. He shines up everyone, basically, aside from Hector. We'll come back to that. Because although Diomedes is the youngest of the Achaean kings, he's also considered the most experienced leader out of all of them. He's also, again, alongside Achilles here in skill. Like, he's very high up. He's known for his skills on the battlefield, as well as being as cunning as Odysseus. And this is shown because he and Odysseus are the only Achaean heroes who participate in covert military operations that demand all the things like discipline, bravery, courage, cunning, resourcefulness. The guy is an absolute dreamboat in terms of war. Again, I don't know why Achilles gets all the attention when Diomedes is on the same battlefield. So with all this in mind, how much I love Diomedes, how much attention I want to give to him, and how much his character I believe needs to be represented fully, I'm going to give this role to Bean Bunny. Now, honestly, I was considering Scooter. I debated it. But then I came up with other plans for Scooter, which I will share, obviously. So I think Bean Bunny deserves to be playing the very much overlooked role, and I think you can't ignore Bean Bunny. He'll bring attention that Diomedes deserves. So there are obviously more characters in the Greek camp, but obviously I have to be realistic. This is a children's film, technically, after all. It's probably only going to fit to a 180-minute frame, so all the other background characters will be other Muppets. But I will insist on having Calchas, who is the prophet. He serves the Greek army as an interpreter between what the gods will for them. And from this, it makes sense now to put in Sweetums, because I think Sweetums just has the look of a prophet, someone who's engaging with the gods. So Sweetums will be that role. So now we move over to the Trojans, starting with the man who caused this damn war, Paris himself. That little weasel. I really dislike Paris. This is no reflection to the Muppet I choose, okay? But, he chose Aphrodite as the most beautiful of the three goddesses to have the golden apple because she bribed him with the most beautiful woman, Helen of Troy, as his reward for picking her. So Helen is obviously under the goddess's spell to go with Paris, and Paris, quite frankly, is rather pathetic in the war, and he's quite useless. I don't mean this in a horrible way towards the Muppet. I say this very reluctantly, because the Muppet I have chosen is one of my favourite Muppets of all time. I think he's absolutely darling, but he will do the reputation of Paris I think he deserves. I'm picking Beaker. Beaker will be Paris. It'll be... It's just fantastic. It's just fantastic that Piggy is pulled into this and a whole war happens because of Beaker. It's just brilliant. I love it. I love it already. I can see the vision. But then that moves me on to my favourite character, Hector. I love Hector so much. Hector is the Prince of Troy, and what a man. He's honourable, he's loving, he's protective, he's courageous, just dutiful. You know, why? Why do men idolise Achilles, the whiny, sulky little Achilles who just sits in the corner the entire time? They have no idea. Hector is like Diomedes, they're the whole package. And perhaps this is my bias, but because how much I love Hector, I think he would be played wonderfully by Kermit the Frog, which also allows for Kermit and Miss Piggy to have more screen time to appease the fans. But they are in no way romantically connected, but they will be on the same screen at the same time, which I think works out better. Also, okay, this is maybe my dark humour showing here, but I think Kermit the Frog will look best being dragged around the walls of Troy by a chariot with his little arms like flailing around. I do think it just will really add to the scene. There'll be memes galore, gifs galore of that scene. It'll be brilliant. Fantastic. And then we have Priam, who is the king of Troy. He is the father of Hector, and he too is lovely. We love him so much. I love the Trojans, quite frankly. I feel sorry for them. I can't deny it, but I do love the Trojans. So Priam, he's gentle, he's compassionate, he is caring, he is wise and dignified, very humble. His story is absolutely heartbreaking. He's the only one that can bring down Achilles' rage and heartlessness to actually become a human for a moment. And I think this role would be best served by Fozzie Bear. And then we have Andromache. So, okay, this is my problem. The Muppets do not have many women Muppets, which makes roles very difficult, but I think I've worked it out. Don't worry about it. So Andromache is the wife of Hector, and again, this woman is beautiful. She's compassionate, she's very protective, she's a sensible woman, she's loving, and her fate is so devastating. And so this is going to be my controversial choice of the Muppets. It's going to be really controversial for all the Muppet fans out there, and I'm just basically going to feed off that rage in the same way clearly Nolan evidently did, because it didn't hurt him financially, did it? Really, evidently. So, my Andromache, I'm going to cast Denise. Yep. I've gone and put Denise and Kermit together, and that's going to be my controversial casting. It'll rile up all the discourse in the film before it's released. Brilliant. Genius. Just give me my paycheck now, okay? And then we have Hecuba. Hecuba is the wife of Priam and the mother of Hector, and as the Queen of Troy, she's this woman with a spirit of steel. You know, she is proud, she is strong-willed, and she's incredibly practical. And I'm going to give this role to Beverly Plume. Now, I know what people are going to say. They're going to be like, what about Camilla the chicken? I'm not excluding Camilla the chicken from the Iliad intentionally. It's just that I obviously have to reserve her for my sequel, The Odyssey, where she will play Penelope, waiting for Gonzo's Odysseus. See? Muppet fans will get that. So I can't. I'm playing the long game here, okay? I'm not ignoring Camilla. She's just going to be Penelope in my next film. Now, as again I reiterate, this will have to be a children's film. I'm going to try and pull these characters down a little bit so they don't get overwhelmed with how many people there are, because there are a lot. So these characters will be in the film, but they won't have a huge build-up to them. But I'm going to have Aeneas, who is obviously the Trojan soldier who will go on to star in the Aeneid, Rome's epic poem by Virgil. And I want him to be played by Walter. I think Walter will make a cute little Aeneas. And then we have Lochaeon and his sons. And that Lochaeon is the priest who warns the Trojans not to accept the Trojan horse, but then he is crushed, and his children are crushed by sea serpents sent by the gods because he sort of gave it away. I'm going to have Laocoon played by Joe, the legal weasel, and I'm going to have two little baby weasels, Muppets, brought alongside him, so they will be included, and it'll be devastating when they get taken off. They won't get crushed, I promise. They'll just get chased off screen by a big snake serpent thing. And then obviously I can't ignore Cassandra. She's such a big role, we can't cut her out. So I'm going to cast Janice as Cassandra because she's allergic to lying, and the fact that everyone accuses her of lying will be a really funny in-joke for the fans, okay? That's where we're going. And now we get to go to the gods. Now, not all the gods are in the Iliad, only some have a major role. So I'm going to cast the main ones, who are the gods who supported the Greeks, who are Hera, Athena, and Poseidon, and those who support the Trojans, who are Apollo, Aphrodite, and Ares. And then you obviously have Zeus, who is neutral, but never really neutral. But people persuade Zeus to take their side. So Hera, I have to give the role to Ma Bear, Fozzie Bear's mum. She gets really overlooked, but I think she has the fierceness to try and batter down Zeus to go her way. Similarly, we have Athena, who I'm going to give to Yolanda Rat, because she's intelligent, she took a course, and I think she will be a great representative of the fierceness and representative of, these wise, fierce little rats on the battlefield. And again, it would be symbolic when Rizzo the rat takes the battlefield in Achilles' armour and Yolanda is up there looking I think it would be poetic, okay? Poseidon is going to be the Swedish chef. He's going to be great in the Odyssey with a little... I'm going to have him have a little spoon instead of a trident, and he's going to be stirring up the seas. It's going to be great. Wait until the second film. I can see it all. And then Apollo is going to be played by Scooter. I think Scooter really suits Apollo. And also because he is the director, the person who's running the show, it makes sense that Apollo will have that kind of role as well. So I'm going to cast for Ares, Uncle Deadly. Now I know Uncle Deadly looks like he'd be a great Hades or Hades, and he would. But he doesn't show up in this, really. They pray to him a couple of times, but he doesn't show up. So I think he'll make a cool, dark-looking Ares as the god of war. That's quite cool. So I think I'm giving it to Uncle Deadly. For Aphrodite, I'm going to cast Annie Sue Pig, which is a smaller role. Annie Sue Pig is Mrs. Piggy's rival back in like episode 302, and she's like a young little pig that she's a little bit jealous of. But because they look similar, I'm going to bring her back as Aphrodite, because Piggy obviously represents Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world, and Aphrodite gave her over. There's a visual consistency there that I want to lean in on. And for Zeus, we have to have not the one and only, the two and only, Statler and Waldorf. They're going to be the greatest Zeus. Again, I'm going to split it like Marley and Marley. There's going to be Zay and Us. I'm going to have like Zay and Us, and they're going to be fighting, and then they'll keep debating with all the gods as they're trying to win their favour. I think it'll be hilarious. It's going to be great. I can't wait to launch this film. Go find me down below. No, there's not. So that is my casting of the Muppets Iliad. I think it'll be brilliant, and I'll obviously be incredibly successful with my first film, which will give me the rights to then do the Odyssey, and then we're just going to go from there. I'll have to recast people, have to reconfigure. There are limited Muppets. I may have to bring in Sesame Street just to balance it all out, but because I'll be so successful with my Iliad, we'll probably have the funding to launch more, or make more puppets, which would be great. There'll be more Muppets on the scene. They'll become future creatures for the rest of the franchise. I put it out there into the universe now, so Disney owes me. They're going to steal my idea. Just saying. But thank you as always for your support, your wonderful, kind support. I really do appreciate it. For some reason, the file's not working on my screen, on my main tier Patreons. I'm going to try and think off the top of my head if I can think of all the patrons without seeing them on the screen. We have Eric Taylor, Joshua Heredia, Gil the Gilded Dragon, Lady of the Labyrinth, Ellen, Holly is Autistic, Yvonne and Yvonne, Kevin Lee Solo, Jenny Edvane, Marina, Wee Lauren, Nicholas Reed, and Andy Bazil. Thank you ever so much as always, and I hope you are happy and healthy. And remember, books save lives, so keep reading.